working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Good evening, I'm Alma Angeles. You're watching ASEAN in Focus on tonight's headlines. Foreign countries are rushing to evacuate their nationals from battle-torn Sudan, where deadly fighting raged into a second week between forces loyal to two rival generals. And Filipinos in Sudan are now being prepared to be repatriated as well. Thai authorities issuing extreme heat warnings as temperatures soar. Plus, deep-sea explorers said they had located the wreck of a World War II Japanese transport ship, which was torpedoed off the Philippines, killing nearly 1,000 Australians aboard. Foreign countries are now rushing to evacuate their nationals from battle-torn Sudan, where deadly fighting raged into a second week between forces loyal to two rival generals. U.S. Special Forces launched a rescue mission early Sunday for around 100 embassy staff and their relatives, swooping in with Chinook helicopters to fly them to a military base in Djibouti. U.S. President Joe Biden condemned the violence, saying it's unconscionable and it must stop. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said UK forces had also evacuated diplomats and their families amid the significant escalation in violence and threats to embassy staff. Germany and France, meanwhile, announced that they had begun evacuating their nationals and those from other countries as well. A French plane carrying around 100 people of multiple nationalities landed in Djibouti, according to French President Emmanuel Macron, with a second flight of another 100 people expected to leave Sunday evening. Saudi nationals and others rescued from battle-scarred Sudan arrived by sea to the Red Sea port city of Jeddah. Long convoys of UN vehicles and buses were also seen leaving Khartoum, heading east to Port Sudan on the Red Sea, 850 kilometers away by road, carrying citizens from all over the world, according to one Sierra Leonean evacuee. Taking advantage of a recent brief lull in fighting, residents of Khartoum rushed to organize buses out, mainly north to Egypt, sharing drivers' numbers, safe routes, and advice on visa restrictions on social media. Meanwhile, President Marcos Jr. said the government is working out plans to safely bring out trapped Filipinos from strife-torn Sudan, as he admitted that evacuating Filipinos trapped there by the fighting in the capital Khartoum is a big problem. Clashes between the Sudanese armed forces and the Rapid Support Forces, paramilitary, which erupted last April 15, have intensified, and the president said his government was trying its very best to secure the safety of Filipinos living and working there. Take a look.
Sudan, malaking problema natin sa Sudan. We have about 300 people in Sudan. Unfortunately, none of the airports are functioning. They're still under fire. Also, we cannot ascertain a secure land route for them to leave. It is a long road from Khartoum to Cairo, which is where our embassy is, that is in charge also of Khartoum, Sudan. But we are already preparing the assets that might be involved. We are just waiting to get better information as to whether or not it will be safe to bring our evacuees out of Khartoum, perhaps into Cairo.
As we heard Derek, he explained that there's no identified secure land route yet, as the Sudanese capital of Khartoum is hundreds of miles away from Egypt, where the nearest Philippine embassy is located. According to the WHO, over 400 people have died in the continued conflict in Sudan since the infighting between the Sudanese armed forces and the Rapid Support Forces paramilitary group began on April 15. Clashes between the Sudanese armed forces and the Rapid Support Forces paramilitary, which erupted last April 15, have intensified, and the president said his government was trying its very best to secure the safety of our kababayans living and working there. Meanwhile, here's DFA Migrant Workers Affairs USEC Eduardo Jose de Vega for more information on the OFWs in Sudan. There are two routes, he said, that could be used, either traveling to Port Sudan where there are ferries going to Saudi Arabia or going to the border of Egypt where a team would bring the Filipinos to Aswan and from there fly them back to the country. Let's listen in.
Tatlo po silang nagtatrabaho, tatlong babae na nagtatrabaho sa Saudi Airlines kasi sila po yung nasa Saudi Airlines na aeroplano na naipit sa Khartoum, no? So sila at mga ibang empleyado dinala ng Saudi government sa Port Sudan, yung port ng Sudan, at galing doon sinundo sila ng isang military vessel galing Saudi Arabia na dala sa kanila sa King Faisal Naval Station sa Jeddah. At doon sila sinalubong kasama yung ating consul nandun, no? Nagkikiusap tayo sa Saudi Arabia din kung may iba tayong mga kababayan na madadala sa Port Sudan, na nandun sa Port Sudan kung meron silang future repatriation ships or what, kung maaaring isakay at mukha namang open sila, no? So gano'n po, sila yung unang tatlong Pilipinong nakalikas, no? Ngayon, merong ibang mga Pilipino rin na kusang loob silang nakakalap ng paraan kasi dinadala sila ng employer nila palabas or yung corporate, yung company nila kumukuha sa kanila ng mga bus, no? Ng reservation sa bus para makalabas. Pero right now, ang government ngayon, nag-uumpisa na kami within the next 24 hours, meron na rin tayong batches na makakasakay na ng evacuation na buses papuntang Egypt. Several years ago, ang sabi ng OWA, 2,000 ang mga Pilipino sa Sudan. Pero simula nung nagkakagulo sa Sudan, some years na ito, no, na palagi may military problems, no? Military hostilities, kudeta, ganyan, nababawasan na. Kaya ang alam ng ating embahada up to recently, ang nakaregister mga 256. Tapos parami lang parami kasi pag nananawagan ng embassy na mag-email kayo dahil gusto namin malaman kung saan kayo. Umabot ng 300, 500. Ngayon, kakausap ko lang kay Ambassador Esdin Tago, 696 na ang nakaregister sa kanila. Mga out of that, 156 handa nang umalis at any given moment. Yung trabaho nila, may konting household workers, pero karamihan magagandang trabaho, highly paid, mga teachers, mga engineers, ganyan po, no? Kaya nga, nandun sila, dahil ang laki ng sweldo, kahit na ba mapanganib, sabihin natin, no? Kaya nga malaki yung sweldo, hindi na natin papayagan bumalik dahil meron nga tayong alert level sa Sudan na bawal ng restricted ang deployment ng workers ngayon doon, no? So, ang focus natin ngayon is to start the repatriation.
About 2.4 million people in Thailand have needed treatment for medical problems linked to air pollution since the start of the year, including nearly 200,000 this week alone, according to its health officials. Let's listen in.
ในแง่ของ PM 2.5 ถ้าเกิดว่าสูดดมเข้าไปค่ะถ้าระดับสูงต่อเนื่องอะค่ะก็คือเอารู้อยู่แล้วว่าถ้าระดับสูงต่อเนื่องเนี่ยจะมีผลทำให้เกิดโรคของระบบทางเดินหายใจคือการเกิดโรคง่ายขึ้นเช่นกลุ่มของถุงลมโป่งพองอย่างเงี้ยค่ะหรือว่าในเด็กอาจจะเกิดกลุ่มของหอบหืดขึ้นมาได้นะคะโดยเฉพาะนอกจากการเกิดโรคแล้วเนี่ยยังมีปัญหาเรื่องของการเกิดการกำเริบของโรคนั้นๆที่เขามีอยู่อะค่ะ
Now, one of the biggest concerns are tiny particles known as PM 2.5, smaller than the diameter of a hair, which can penetrate deep into the lungs and even reach the bloodstream. According to IQ Air, in 2022, the average PM 2.5 concentration in Thailand was 3.6 times the WHO's annual air quality guideline limits. Air pollution was a factor in about 31,000 deaths in 2019 in Thailand, according to WHO data. Smoke from forest fires, farmers burning crop stubble, as well as vehicle emissions and heavy industry-generated fumes are among the main causes of toxic smog in the kingdom. The El Nino weather pattern is also exacerbating the haze problem in Southeast Asia. Thailand is home to more than 70 million people, and its poor air quality is a growing issue ahead of the country's May 14 election, with the incumbent government accused of not doing enough. Meanwhile, the world's glaciers melted at dramatic speed last year, and saving them is effectively a lost cause, according to the UN, reporting this on Friday as climate change indicators once again hit record highs. Let's listen in.
We have again broken a new record in ocean heat content, which is, for example, giving more energy for the tropical storms, cyclones, hurricanes, and typhoons. We have doubled the sea level rise during the past 20 years. We used to have 2.3 millimeters per year sea level rise 20 years ago, and recently we have seen 4.6 millimeters per year increases. And that increase is very much coming from the melting of major glaciers in Greenland and Antarctica. Trend in weather patterns and all of these parameters may continue until 2060s, independent of our success in climate mitigation. We have already emitted so much of especially carbon dioxide to the atmosphere that this kind of phasing out of the negative trend takes several decades. And as I said, we have already lost this melting of glaciers game and sea level rise game. Melting of the glaciers continue, and there has been a 4-time increase of the melting of glaciers since the 70s. And here in Switzerland, we lost 6.2% of the glacier mass last summer because of the heat wave, which is a new record. Last summer, the heat wave here in Europe led to casualties of about 15,000 people who died because of the heat wave and poor air quality. And in China, last summer was the hottest summer ever, and it was also the second driest summer that they have observed. And they also reached a record low level of water in their main river called Yangtze. We have started seeing the increase of food insecurity again, and there have been more than 20 million people affected in Horn of Africa, 28 million in Latin America and Caribbean, 19 million in Afghanistan, and 7 million in South Sudan.
The Central Asian mountain region, also known as High Mountain Asia, includes the Himalayan, Karakoram, and Hindu Kush mountains. Stretching from China to Afghanistan, it's home to 55,000 glaciers that together store more fresh water than anywhere else on the planet outside the North and South Poles. The Yangtze River in China, the biggest on the continent, and the Mekong in Southeast Asia also depend on Himalayan waters. If world leaders fail to honor their promise to try to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, between half and 2/3 of the total ice mass in the mountains of Central Asia will have disappeared by the end of the century. In other news, President Marcos Jr. said his meeting with visiting Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang was productive, as it allowed Manila and Beijing to clarify some pronouncements. Some of the pronouncements that have been made recently by our two countries and many other countries might be misinterpreted, he said. So today, he said it was really useful that we were able to speak with Minister Qin Gang, the Foreign Minister of China, so we can directly to one another and iron things out, he added. Qin, who is on an official visit, met President Marcos in Malacanang after his first in-person bilateral meeting with Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo. The chief executive didn't elaborate, but the statement comes after Chinese Ambassador Wang Shilian's recent remarks over Filipino workers in Taiwan drew flack, especially from lawmakers. On Friday, Mr. Wang said the U.S. intends to take advantage of the new sites under Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement to interfere in the Taiwan Strait situation. He said Beijing reserves the option of taking all necessary measures over the Taiwan Strait, as it advised Manila to oppose Taiwan independence if it genuinely cares about the 150,000 Filipinos working there. Manalo earlier reaffirmed that Manila adheres to the One China policy while expressing concern over the escalating tensions across the Taiwan Strait.
We need to work together to continue our tradition of friendship, deepen mutually beneficial cooperation, and properly resolve our differences in the spirit of credibility, consultation, and dialogue, and keep our promises to each other. so as to bring more benefits to our two countries and two peoples.
Our leaders have agreed that our differences in the West Philippine Sea are not the sum total of our relations. These differences should not prevent us from seeking ways of managing them effectively, especially with respect to the enjoyment of rights of Filipinos, especially fishermen or fisherfolk, whose livelihood and general well-being are undermined by incidents and actions in the West Philippine Sea.
In other news, EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell called on European navies to patrol the disputed Taiwan Strait in an opinion piece in a French weekly published on Sunday. Mr. Borrell's comments in the journal Le Dumanche echo comments he made last week when he stressed how crucial Taiwan is to Europe.
Taiwán es fundamental para Europa por tres razones. Porque es el estrecho más estratégico del mundo y en particular para nuestro comercio. Tenemos que estar allí presentes a través de Freedom of Navigation Operations, a través de nuestras flotas. Segundo, no solamente por una razón moral, que una acción contra Taiwán por fuerza tiene que ser rechazada, también es porque sería, en términos económicos, gravísimo para nosotros, porque Taiwán tiene un papel estratégico en la producción de los más avanzados semiconductores.
Now, 2 weeks ago, China launched 3 days of military exercises around Taiwan, simulating targeted strikes and a blockade of the island in response to a meeting between Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen and U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Mr. Borrell's comments come after French President Emmanuel Macron earlier this month argued that Europe should not be a follower of the U.S. in the event of conflict with China over Taiwan. Mr. Macron's comments coming after a visit to China sparked criticism from some politicians in both the U.S. and inside the European Union. China claims Taiwan as its territory and has vowed to bring the island under its control one day. In tonight's other news, according to Nikkei, Apple Incorporated is in talks with suppliers to make MacBooks in Thailand as part of the company's ongoing efforts to expand its manufacturing presence beyond China. Now, Apple has also been mass-producing its Apple Watch in Thailand for more than a year. The report published this on Thursday. Apple and its key suppliers have been shifting production away from China, where strict COVID curbs disrupted Foxconn's biggest iPhone factory last year. Apple is also seeking to avoid a hit to its business due to tensions between Beijing and Washington. Apple opened its first retail store in India on Tuesday, underscoring the U.S. tech titan's increasing focus on the South Asian nation as a key sales market and alternative manufacturing hub to China. In other news, Vietnam's gross domestic product is projected to grow 5.8% this year, sharing the second position with Cambodia in the region, only after the Philippines, according to the International Monetary Fund. Notably, Vietnam's public debt is expected to stay at the lowest compared with 8 other Association of Southeast Asian Nations member countries, according to IMF. The IMF also forecasts that Vietnam's GDP growth will rebound to 6.9% in 2024, the highest in Southeast Asia, and its public debt will fall to 31.3% of the national GDP in 2028 from the record 47.5% in 2016. In terms of inflation, the lender said it will reach 5% and 3% this year and 2024, respectively. Vietnam's economic growth is projected to ease to 6.3% in 2023 from a robust 8% last year, as services growth moderates and high prices and interest rates weigh on households and investors, according to the World Bank's latest taking stock report. In tonight's other news, the first circus show in Papua New Guinea was held at the Port Moresby Arts Theatre. For more, here's Echo Hortaleza Quinola.
It is World Circus Day, and here in Port Moresby, the first Papua New Guinea circus show lights up the Moresby Arts Theatre. Hosted by the Active City Development Program, the show features 11 homegrown performers. Diverse entertainment showcases acrobatic skills, aerial silk dance, stunts, and clowns comedy skits.
Well, it took us 5 years to practice this show. And when I was up there, I was like, okay, I'm going to give my best and I want everyone to enjoy.
It's a first PNG circus in Papua New Guinea. It's under the Active City Development Program. We want to take this PNG circus to next level.
Guest performer and internationally acclaimed circus star Rogerio Piva graces the show. Piva wows the crowd with breathtaking unicycling, juggling, and ball shooting.
Being in 37 countries, I work around the world in many circles and stuff. Here the people is so good. I do show in community normally, no? And the people is beautiful. They really believe, they're really excited. They really love what they do. So good energy. I feel so happy.
Spectators cheer on each performance. Excitement filled the air.
Lost for words. I am just very, very happy with these young kids who had no opportunity before, no talent, no skills, and in 2 years they've transformed. And so I'm proud of them. And for a first show, it's a great show. Yeah.
It was fantastic. It was fantastic. You know, the kids have put a lot of effort into the show. It was just very, very beautiful.
Amazing, brilliant. This is something different and incredible. Like, love it.
Yeah, I'm very proud that the Papua New Guinean can do this. It's nice. It's very tremendous for us to see such event and such skills.
Ang galing-galing nila, and it's my first time to watch circus dito sa PNG. I didn't expect na mayroon palang ganito sa PNG. It's the first time ever, really. And I give credits dun sa mga organizers.
The Active City Development Program says that the circus is one way to empower the youth to elevate their lives by indulging them in physical activities and creative arts. Echo Hortaleza Quinola, Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea. Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
A new bird park is set to open in Singapore with 8 large aviaries that visitors can walk through to see birds of different species living together in the same enclosure. Take a look.
By having the birds have so much more space and be able to coexist with many different species, because the more space you have, the more animals you can mix, as long as they get along, obviously. And we went to very much detail, making sure that whatever is mixed here actually can coexist without any problems. But that means that they get to experience new things. They get to fly more, they get to interact with other species, they get to be in bigger flocks. And this is really important for them. And so we're very happy that not only does it look great, it's also great for the birds. The population plan here, we have one of the largest populations of birds in the human care in one single institution. And we're going to start over with already over 400 species and over 3,500 animals. As the park matures, this will continue to grow, because we are not starting from scratch, in the sense that we have a huge heritage from Jurong Bird Park. And what we're doing with this place, because of the infrastructure and because of how it's designed and how it allows the birds to have so much more quality of life, we can actually amplify everything that was good from Jurong Bird Park.
During the media preview on Friday, visitors saw flamingos and macaws living side by side and got close to friendly parrots and hornbills. The birds have been gradually relocating to the new 17-hectare park over several months since their old home, Jurong Bird Park, closed in January. By the time it opens on May 8, the new bird paradise will house 3,500 birds from over 400 species, according to Mandai Wildlife Group, which runs Bird Paradise and Singapore Zoo. There are twice as many immersive aviaries that visitors can walk through in the new park, and they're designed to bring visitors closer to their feathered inhabitants, and each one is built to resemble different parts of the world, including Southeast Asia paddy fields, the Australian outback, and African rainforests. And finally in our news, deep-sea explorers said they had located the wreck of a World War II Japanese transport ship, the Montevideo Maru, which was torpedoed off the Philippines, killing nearly 1,000 Australians aboard. Now, the ship sunk on July 1, 1942 by a U.S. submarine unaware it was carrying prisoners of war was found at a depth of more than 4 kilometers, said the maritime archaeology group Silent World Foundation, which organized the mission with Dutch deep-sea survey firm Fugro. The sinking of the Montevideo Maro was Australia's worst ever maritime disaster, killing an estimated 979 Australian citizens, including at least 850 troops. Civilians from 13 other countries were also aboard, the foundation said, bringing the total number of prisoners killed to about 1,060. They had been captured a few months earlier by Japanese forces in the fall of the coastal township of Rabaul in Papua New Guinea. After 5 years of planning, explorers began searching for the wreck on April 6 in the South China Sea, northwest of the Philippines' main island of Luzon. They made a positive sighting just 12 days later using high-tech equipment, including an autonomous underwater vehicle equipped with sonar. The wreckage will remain undisturbed on the seafloor, where it lies at a greater depth than the Titanic, out of respect for the families of those who perished, according to the foundation. No artifacts or human remains are to be removed. As my usual habit, I'd like to end the day on a positive note. Let's encourage and build each other up so that no one is left behind. And that's it for tonight's broadcast of ASEAN in Focus. Stay in the news because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.